Hello and welcome to Hudson McKenzie's second podcast. In this series, we dive into the latest immigration trends, policies, and developments that are shaping the business landscape today. I'm your host, Ganming Chung, and today's episode is a must-listen for companies holding a sponsor license or considering obtaining one. We'll be unpacking three crucial topics: immigration compliance, the Home Office's digital visa transition, and a recent surge in sponsor license revocations. Joining me is Marina Azar, our talented trainee solicitor here at Hudson McKenzie. Marina brings invaluable expertise in immigration compliance and has conducted extensive research in this area. Together, we'll explore how these changes affect businesses and what they can do to stay ahead. So whether you're a HR professional, a business owner, or simply curious about how these policies could impact your company, this episode is for you. So let's dive right in. Marina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me with you today, Ming.
Yeah, shall we jump straight into it?
Let's do it.
So corporate immigration plays a vital role in the UK's economy, and we've seen a flurry of changes in the past year that have impacted both businesses and migrant workers. To set the stage, let's talk about sponsor licenses. What are they, and why have they become increasingly relevant for businesses?
Absolutely. So, aside from the many businesses who are aware of what sponsor licenses are and who hold them, for those who may not, this license is essentially a permit that is issued by the government that allows UK employers to hire foreign workers under specific visa routes. They're crucial for accessing international talent, ensuring businesses remain competitive and can fill gaps by skilled individuals that are not met by the domestic workforce.
All right, that's a great overview. So sponsor licenses clearly add immense value to businesses by allowing them to tap into the global talent pools. But we've noticed a sharp rise in the revocations of sponsor licenses recently. Could you shed some light as to why this is happening?
Definitely. So, in the past year in 2024, there's been a notable increase in the suspension and revocation of sponsor licenses by UKVI. And we saw that between January and March, UKVI suspended 309 skilled worker sponsor licenses and revoked around 210. This marked a significant increase and rise compared to previous years. Now, there are several factors which may have contributed to this surge, including policy changes such as the Labour government that intensified the enforcement measures against employers misusing the sponsorship system, and that led to stricter scrutiny and potentially increased compliance visits. This also relates to the number of registered sponsor license holders in the UK, which has grown by 48% compared to the previous year, and has also resulted in more employers being subject to audits and compliance checks. Then we have the adjustment in the salary thresholds for different work visa routes, which really captured everyone's attention last April. There was also a 48% rise in the skilled worker salary threshold, which was essentially part of a broader strategy to control migration, and that also led to stricter enforcement of compliance standards. And of course, suspension or revocation does come with its consequences, which may really impact a company in the long run. Depending on the reason of revocation and the severity of the non-compliance, it may mean that the business could have the inability to sponsor new migrants in the future. It could also mean a potential curtailment of existing sponsored workers' visas and reputational damage to the business itself.
Right, so it's clear that non-compliance can have serious consequences, not just operationally, but also reputationally. But it's important to remember that the Home Office's goal isn't punitive, right? It's to ensure a fair and consistent process for all compliant sponsors. So Marina, what steps can businesses take to mitigate these risks and maintain compliance?
That's correct. So, firstly, I'd say businesses should really obtain the relevant training. And it's appreciated that not all sponsors, not all employers or HR teams are particularly familiar with the immigration compliance. And this is something that the company should look into when they obtain a sponsor license. Companies can always reach out to immigration specialist firms like ours to ensure that they meet their compliance needs. One particular aspect focused on is the maintenance of accurate records of sponsored employees, including visa expiry dates, their status, and any employment changes. There are also many tools and software that companies can consider to track and manage compliance, as well as digital tools for right to work checks and reporting deadlines. Alongside the training, companies should conduct regular mock audits, whether these are internal or external. These will really help identify and correct potential issues or red flags before any possible Home Office inspection.
Great. These are excellent recommendations, and they show that by proactively managing compliance, businesses can not only protect their licenses, but also strengthen their ability to attract and retain skilled workers. If a sponsor license is revoked, however, is there a path for businesses to recover?
Well, one thing that the Home Office does look for is prompt communication. So I would say if there were a potential for recovery, this would involve promptly addressing the issues raised by the Home Office, demonstrating compliance improvements by the company itself, and reapplying for the license with robust systems in place to avoid any future breaches. Now, I would say that a business should always assume that it may be audited without notice. So maintaining meticulous records and conducting periodic mock audits to identify gaps before the Home Office does will really help them for any unannounced visits. I would stress for businesses who are looking to future-proof their immigration compliance practices to really invest in compliance management tools, prioritize staff training, build strong communication with immigration advisors, and keep on top of policy updates to adapt quickly to changes.
Right. So it's kind of reassuring to know that recovery is possible, but it's clear that prevention is better than the cure, right? So regular audits, meticulous record keeping, and staying ahead of policy changes are essential for any businesses relying on sponsorship. So let's shift gears for a minute into another significant development that the Home Office has come up with recently, the Home Office's new digital visa system. Marina, could you walk us through the main features of this transition and what's driving the move to digital visas?
Absolutely. So, as many companies have heard, we've got the new digital visa system, which is coming into effect early next year. And this replaces physical documentation such as BRP cards with online verification, which is accessible via a unique share code that the employee generates and passes on to the employer to complete this check. It integrates the Home Office's databases for real-time monitoring of a migrant's right to work and allows the individual and the employer to view their immigration status online in a quick and easy manner. The government was looking to essentially modernize its strategy and aim to streamline the immigration process, reduce its paperwork, and enhance its monitoring. So, this is, as I mentioned, being introduced as we enter the new year.
It's fascinating to see how technology is transforming immigration processes. A digital-first approach makes sense, especially in today's fast-paced, tech-driven world. That said, this shift is bound to impact some industries more than others. So, which sectors do you think are likely to face the greatest challenges, and why do you think that is?
So, I would say sectors relying heavily on foreign labor, such as healthcare, hospitality, and tech, are likely to face greater challenges due to the higher volumes of sponsorship and the need for meticulous compliance systems, as we've seen. This might mean that employers might adapt or have to adapt to checking right to work statuses digitally, which can be faster, but also requires careful management of access codes and data, as non-compliance or errors can lead to penalties, as we discussed earlier.
Right. So while the digital system improves efficiency, it also demands more from employers in terms of compliance and data accuracy. So businesses must be prepared to adapt quickly, especially given the government's stance on enforcement. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right, thank you so much. So that's all for today's podcast. I hope you found our discussion on UK's new digital visa system and the sponsor license compliance insightful. A huge thank you to Marina for sharing her expertise. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me today, Ming.
If you have any questions or want to dive deeper in today's topics, feel free to connect with us through our website at hudsonmckenzie.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.